best part about unboxing a Mac is when you turn it on, it'll chime. Are we ready? Hi Slayers and welcome back to my channel. My name is Eileen and in today's video I am so excited because we're going to be unboxing the new M4 MacBook Air in sky blue, and it's so pretty and I'm so ready to unbox it. So if you don't know, the MacBook Air just got refreshed in spring of 2025 and now has been upgraded to the M4 chips, so I'm very excited to go ahead and open this and give you guys my first impressions. If you like these kinds of videos, remember to like and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into it. Here she is. Oh my gosh. I went to the Apple store to get her and I got a bag, which is very cool. I almost never get a bag when I get Apple products. So let's go ahead and take her out of the bag. Oh yeah, I'm so excited. On the back of the box, it says all of the specs, which is very cool because they actually upgraded the base model to now start at 16 gigabytes of RAM instead of the previous 8 gigabytes of RAM from last year. And one of my favorite things about this MacBook Air, and one of the reasons why I got it, is because they lowered the price by $100. So this MacBook Air right here was only $999, which is the cheapest it's been since 2020. I'm pleasantly surprised by Apple for lowering the price while upping the RAM at the same time this year. So I'm hoping that this value is really, really good, and I'm very excited to test it out a little bit. Also, I did just want to mention that I got the base model 13-inch version. There is a 15-inch version, and of course you could spec it up, but I just wanted to get the base model to try it out and to see really how powerful it actually is. So this has 16 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, and of course the M4 chip. Now let's go ahead and undo these seals. Okay, ready? Here's one. Yep, this is truly amazing. There we go. All right. I'm so excited. I love Mac products and I am so excited to unbox this. So let's go ahead and take the top off. Beautiful. Okay, and inside I see the MacBook. Oh my gosh. I'm actually so happy. I'm so ready to see this blue color in person. Oh my god. Okay. Let me take the MacBook out first and set it aside. Oh, it's so light. And show you what else is in the box. So we have a very nice braided blue cable, which is super cool, and it matches the MacBook, which I am so obsessed with. And then, of course, the instruction booklets, and it comes with a tiny power charger. I actually have the MacBook Pro, and my charger is like much bigger than this, so this looks pretty nice and compact. I believe it's a 64-watt charger. Nope, it's a 30-watt charger. And then in the instruction booklets, sadly, we no longer have stickers. It's just the instructions. The sky blue stickers I know would look so cute, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm over it. Now it's time to actually unbox the Mac. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh my gosh. So pretty. There is nothing like a fresh MacBook. Now, the best part about unboxing a Mac is when you turn it on, it'll chime. Are we ready? Wow. It's so light. It's so light. Oh my gosh. It looks very blue. It looks a lot more blue than I thought it did in store. When I was in store, I was like, is this the silver one? I really couldn't tell. And it's probably not going to show up on camera very well, but right now, it looks pretty blue. Here, it's saying hello to me. Oh my gosh. It's so pretty. Hello. It does look really silvery now. This is so weird. It's like shape-shifting. Okay, so really quickly, I wanted to compare it to my personal laptop that I used for school and everything, which is the MacBook Pro 14-inch, and it's an M1, so she's getting a little bit old, but this is like the silvery color, and then here is the blue color. So it's like very similar, but the blue one has more of like a hint of blue. It's definitely not like bright blue, but you can kind of tell that it's very like cool toned. Like I said, this is the 13-inch, and then I have a 14-inch Pro here, and there is a huge weight difference. This feels so heavy now, and the Air, of course, feels so light, which is what it's meant to do. I won't get into too much between the Pro and the Air, but one of the biggest differences is that the Air does not have a fan to keep the computer cool, so it's a lot smaller in that way, and it's a little bit less powerful because of that, but the M4 chip makes it so efficient that it honestly probably rivals the Pro in a lot of settings. So I'm gonna use this Air a little bit and do a couple of tasks that I do every day to see how it compares to my usual use of the MacBook Pro, and I'll let you know my first impressions of it compared to the MacBook. Okay, so I just used the M4 MacBook Air for the first time, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my first impressions of it. So the first impression I had was it is so incredibly light. I know I've mentioned this before, but I of course am used to the heaviness of a Pro and carrying that around in my backpack all day, which I'm sure is great for my back. But this device is so light, and even for people with like wrist issues, I noticed when I like picked it up and moved it around that I almost felt like I was carrying nothing. Compared to my MacBook Pro, whenever I lift it up, it always feels like a whole ordeal that I probably should use two hands for, but this I feel like I can very easily pick up with one hand and it doesn't hurt or feel strenuous in any way. The next thing I noticed was that the keyboard feels a little bit small. Maybe it's just me, but it feels a little bit cramped. Maybe I'm just used to using my MacBook Pro, but I have very, very small hands, so if you're someone with like super large hands, you definitely probably want to go in store to test the keyboard out first before you buy it. And then I went and tested the speakers, and now I was a little worried about the speakers because I know that the MacBook Air does not have like side speaker grills where you can actually see the speaker and everything, but to me it actually sounded really loud. I had to turn it down immediately. It was so loud. I'm not saying it was the best quality, but it definitely was very audible and you will be able to hear what you're listening to, which is probably the most important part. And then the other thing I noticed was that I missed having a side Thunderbolt port on the other side, because this is usually the side that I charge my device from, so it was just a little annoying to realize that there are only two ports here. But I will say one of the improvements from the M4 MacBook Air specifically is that it now supports up to 2 simultaneous displays, which means you can plug in like 2 monitors and use them with your new MacBook Air, which was something that the other MacBook Airs from the previous M generations could not do, or at least could not do while you also have the MacBook Air open. So that's very cool, and it's great because you can connect it through the Thunderbolt 4 ports, even though there are only 2 on the left side here. Luckily, you don't have to charge from this side because there's also a MagSafe charger right there. But as someone that uses the Pro and is a content creator, I do love having my ports of the HDMI and the SD card slot, so I was a little sad to notice that they were not there, but that's okay because you can easily get an adapter for it and it'll be totally fine. Now, the next 2 little tests I did was open Lightroom and Adobe Premiere Pro. So Lightroom, I batch edited 100 photos at once and I copy and pasted all the settings, and it was pretty slow, but it was able to do it pretty well and it didn't like crash or anything. And I noticed it getting kind of warm, but it was not super warm or anything. And honestly, I think this device might be really, really good for someone who edits a lot of photos or is a photographer, because it's really super lightweight, which means you could take it on shoots with you, and also ran Lightroom surprisingly well. Lightroom is usually not a super intensive application, but this definitely handled it pretty well. So I was pleasantly surprised. Now, I only edited a couple of things on it, so I'm not saying this is like a long-term review of it, and I would be curious to see how it does in the long term, but for my first impressions, it worked pretty well. So now the next thing I did was use Premiere Pro to edit a YouTube video. Now, I made this video sort of beefy. It was about 17 minutes long, and it had a couple of layers. I threw a couple of effects on it, like warp stabilizer, and I green screened some text, so that was pretty cool to see how it would respond. And it was not the smoothest playback in the world. There were definitely a couple of drop frames that I noticed, which is to be expected because this device is not really meant for heavy video editing or anything, but for someone who's maybe looking to take up YouTube as a side career, I feel like this device was able to handle it in the end. I was a little bit worried because it was getting pretty hot, so much so that I kind of moved it away from my lap, but it wasn't like burning me or anything, and it definitely didn't thermal throttle, which is great because the previous MacBook Airs used to thermal throttle a lot, which meant that they would basically crash and stop working, so I was pleasantly surprised in that it was able to render and export even if it took a little bit longer than I am normally used to. But honestly, the actual export time and render time ended up being pretty comparable to my M1 Pro, which is pretty good because I got my M1 Pro for $1,600 and this thing is only $999 or $899 if you use an education discount. So I definitely think if you're someone that does light video work or wants to get into more video work, this thing can definitely handle it. I would just be a little bit careful when using it because of course you don't want to overheat it too much over time. And then a couple of just external things that I noticed was that the display felt a little small, even coming from a 14-inch to a 13-inch. It felt a tiny bit too tiny for me, but I really quickly adjusted and then I didn't notice it at all, so I really think that it's probably fine, and that's of course the whole point of having a MacBook Air anyways, is to be portable and really small. I also noticed that the color looked pretty good to my eyes. I compared it literally right next to my MacBook Pro and had Lightroom open, and I feel like they looked almost identical. I know that the actual displays are pretty different compared to a MacBook Pro and a MacBook Air, but in terms of color accuracy and not just brightness or motion, I feel like the color accuracy was pretty good. I also noticed that the camera was really good and looks pretty good for Zoom calls and for conference calls, and it also can track you, which is kind of cool. And just overall, the device like makes me happy. It just looks so cute and small, and I love the color. Even though it's a little bit subtle, it's still nice to kind of know like this is a blue, pretty, sparkly device. And I just love when brands make their products a little bit more fun for everyone. And just like most every Mac, it looks really good and it feels really solid, and it's definitely something that can last you for years to come. So to conclude, just from my first impressions and for using the device for a couple of hours, I feel like the M4 MacBook Air could really be a great device for someone who wants something really portable and really efficient, and something that looks really nice and sleek and feels super lightweight. The addition of the extra cores and the new RAM and the lower price makes this device a super good value and something that I'm really excited to try out a little bit more. And the whole point of MacBook Airs is to be made for the masses, so I think that this is going to be a great device for so many different people out there. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you like these unboxing videos, and I will talk to you all later. Bye!